of what we're going to talk about. The first one is systematize. Now, I know she said in the last session, right, 80%, they find that it was 80% of businesses do not see results from systemization. Well, part of that is because they're not putting it in place properly. They're not embracing it. Maybe they've documented every process they've ever done, and I have come into businesses and said, that's fantastic, can I see them? We don't know where they are. Okay, well then you're not using them, right? So that's part of this, is that you have to put it in place as well. There are 3 kinds of systemizations that we talk about as far as policy, process, and procedure. If you're a single business owner, if it's just you, you probably don't need much policy. But policy are the rules, right, that everyone follows. But I'll tell you, I made policy when I just started out on my own, just so I made sure I took holidays. My policy was, these are the holidays of the business. Those types of things, and maybe your hours. Those can be some policies if it's just you, to hold yourself accountable to those things. Process is really a written prose or a drawing of what a flow looks like. Procedure is a checklist. You know, what order do we go in? Think plane taking off, and the pilot has to go through all the things that are the same every time, but you can't forget one. You can build all of these things into your business pretty simply. The next thing that we're going to talk about is project management, and then we're going to get to interruption management. So these are the 3 main areas that will help you cut the chaos: systemization, project management, and interruption management. And my shoes are sticky too, just like some of the other people's. The whole place, I guess. Okay, so if we stay till the end, I'm going to give you a free operations audit that you can take. So keep that in mind. Keep some ideas as we work through this. What are your operations challenges? So let's talk a little bit about systemizing here. I had a client who, she's fantastic. When we came to work for her, she was organized, she was structured, except she had no way of communicating it to her team. So they were all running around like this, even though she thought it was run like this. And when we got into it too, we found some holes and gaps. Because they weren't using it, we didn't know what the holes and gaps are. So systemization goes beyond just what's in your mind as, I got it, okay, great. Does everyone else got it, right? So the first thing I think people wonder and question is, you know, when do I need a system? What do I put into place in my business? So one is to repeat successes. What was a win? Let's do that again. How do we make sure we do that again? Write how you did it. Another, stop reinventing the wheel. Small business owners do things like hire people very rarely, right? There are things you do maybe every 6 months or every year that it's really hard to remember, how did I do that last time? That's a good thing for reinventing the wheel. There are also other things that we do regularly that we just think we know all the steps. Hence the checklist for the airplane pilots, right? You get into the habit of doing them, but if you skip something, it could be deadly. So that's where making sure that you can repeat the successes and stop reinventing the wheel come in place. The next one is start delegating. This is where you can start to release the work off of you. If you don't have systems in place, it's still all in your head, and it can't get to the people who can be delegated to. The result of delegation is you get to start working on your business instead of constantly doing all the things in it. So the delegation is key. If you're a solo, how many people are solo business owners? Quite a few. How many of you have an assistant? Quite a few. That assistant makes a big difference in your businesses, doesn't it? My assistant right now, I've actually seen some stuff. I'm not paying attention to much stuff. She's responding to emails on my behalf. She's handled some Slack messages that all that's running while I'm doing this. And so if you don't have an assistant, that's a good place, and it doesn't have to be full-time, and it doesn't have to be in your office. There are many options to get affordable ones. The other is your long-term business value. If it's all in your head, if the business depends on you, you have nothing to sell. You will keep being the sole owner and doing all the things forever. So unless you're expanding that, and maybe that's your plan, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want to be that consultant that does all the things all the time, that's fine. But if you are planning to sell it, you have to do these things, or else you will not have anything to sell. So how do we know, well, before we jump to this, I want everyone right now to think about one task that they're doing in their business that they shouldn't be doing. One thing. I will tell you the one I just gave up. I'm a journalism major. I'm very persnickety on writing. 2 of you have already heard this story. And I used to write all our blogs. Found out I can't do that. I don't have time for that. Hired someone, she did them. She did a really good job. She was also a journalism major. Then I hired a company that's doing them. And I feel like I have to proofread every single one, and I have to check all that little grammar until it dawned on me, no one notices this but me. I have to let it go. And I just stopped doing it. I didn't delegate it, I just stopped. So it can be things like that. So think one task that you think only you can do, because I thought only I could do it. Turns out nobody needs to do it, right? So think of that one thing only you can do, and we're gonna start figuring out how to delegate or something, or give it up. So how do you know what to systemize? The first is to identify the bottlenecks. That's the exercise I just gave you. How many people here believe that they are the bottleneck in their business? You always are. You always, always are. It doesn't matter how much you do this, you're still holding something up. So keep practicing that exercise. What's that one thing? What's that one thing? The other thing is when things seem messy or out of order or chaotic, y'all identified that, disorganization. That's another thing to systemize. Why is everybody running around with like chickens with their heads pulled off? You know, let's pull that order together. That's an opportunity to systemize. When steps seem redundant, repeatable, or there's too many, that's a good place. If you're like, why does this take so long to do something so simple? I bet if you start digging into it, you're gonna find out it's because somebody's doing stuff that probably doesn't need to be done, or we're having some checks and balances that maybe it's excessive. That's a good place to look. And then when you're working with your team, ask them why we do it, because your team's executing it. If you have a team, even if you have a VA, they're executing. Why are we doing this? And the only answer you should not ever accept, anyone got it?
We've always done it.
Because we've always done it that way. That's not the answer. Now, there might be a reason you've always done it that way, but let's get to the reason so that we can figure out what is the streamlined method of that process. The other thing too, when specific activities are not efficient or if they're costing too much money. So part of systemizing can be finding those flaws in the cost of what you're doing as well. To reduce that, it could be people, it could be things. Clicker, there we go. So we talked a little bit about policy and procedure. This is the, and process. This is the structure where you start to manage things like you mean it. When you're putting these things in writing and sharing with your team. Policies, the rules, as we discussed, procedures, the checklist, and processes, the written system. So those will get you the terminology right. So these are the suggested processes I put out for all businesses. I don't really care what business you're running, and even if you're solo, although you don't really have to run payroll, although maybe you should because you might not be paying yourself properly. Those are all the things that I would say should be put into all businesses. Now, you'll notice I have offboarding team members, but I don't have onboarding. Why is that?
That should not be handed off.
You can hand off onboarding, and you don't have to do all of it. But onboarding might vary. You might, and I do believe you should have a process for that. But it's not one of the main ones. Offboarding is the most important because, especially in this day and age, we give people the keys to the kingdom. They have access to all these apps, to ways to communicate with all of our clients. If you have an employee that needs to go today, right now, you better know what to pull them out of and what to check off if it is a dangerous situation where they could harm your reputation, your business. And so getting that offboarding list, you can build your onboarding list from your offboarding list, but getting that offboarding in place, even if all you have is a VA, because let's face it, if we have a VA, they have everything. They're usually communicating as us. So very important. And if you have somebody else in your business that could be clicking down these things and taking the person out of things while you're speaking to the person, that's even better. Hopefully we don't have that many situations arise like that, but it can, and it could be very bad. Okay, so software influence also comes into our process. What's your CRM? Does everyone know what a CRM is? Is everyone using a CRM? Okay, good. If you're one person, this is the first tool I got. You have to know who you're talking to. You have to know how to stay in touch with them. So the other is, how do you manage your finances? Is anyone in here not using QuickBooks or FreshBooks? You're just, yes, that's fair. Okay, great. So, and where do you manage projects? What tool are you using to manage your projects? Even if you don't work with clients in a project way, you still have internal projects that you need to run for yourself. So this could be Monday, Asana, my favorite, and I know some in this room use it, teamwork.com. There are others that are out there that will do the job. CRM's HubSpot is my favorite, but there are simpler ones too. There's one called Less Annoying CRM that's really pretty cool. And then what do you use for timesheets? If you track time, if you bill time, how are you tracking that time? QuickBooks does it, a little clunky. Teamwork does it, but there are tons of free tools like Toggle and things like that. Where do you store your client data? When your client sends you stuff, how secure does it need to be? Are you in accounting? Are you in healthcare? Those things have different rules than typical. But is it Google Drive, Dropbox? Think of those kinds of things. How do you manage client support? If you have, for those of you who are software developers, and people are asking you questions all the time, or finding bugs, or asking for new things, what are you using to track those bugs? There are bug trackers or issue trackers. You can create a form in Google. There's all sorts of ways to do it. But if you get it out of email, that's going to help you. So yes?
Can you go back?
How far?
All right, so towards.
Oh, what happened?
No, I'm so sorry.
You broke it. Which
No
one?
one witnessed me doing it.
The software or the one before?
The one we were just on, where you're talking about, right there, storage. So there's a step in there of capturing the information.
That would be your project management tool.
Yeah, okay. That's the way to define it, okay. Like notes, recordings.
That could also be client data storage, so that might be your plan.
As we go, we're capturing it, and then the process of succinctly getting it. Because if we're doing it, I get busy, and the week's gone, and there's, where did I write that? Oh, did I get everything? Oh, I got their contact and their information.
That's your CRM.
Yeah.
So right, and that's actually a process I would recommend as you start to grow. What do you do in each tool? What is each tool's purpose?
How do they integrate? And
Yeah.
I got a great CRM. I got this remarkable. I can record things.
And now it's all in 8 places.
Now
How do you bring it together?
And then go capture it, and then go get it and use it. So.
And if you have a VA, after every meeting, they can remind you that they need the notes, they need the recording, they need to, all of those things. So that's a good use.
Probably the step, right?
That's a good use of a VA. If you're not going to be the one that's going to remember, alternatively, here's a simple process. After every meeting, have a meeting block. That's what that's for. It's 15 minutes. Yeah. So the point of this is that you should have all this software to help you develop this overall system. But more importantly, when you're writing your processes, you need to include what these softwares do for you and how they interact as part of those processes. So all of that will have an influence on your process. So the next thing is, after you create processes, I'm not going to teach you how to write processes today, but I have a whole book on it right here, if anyone wants it when we go. I'm not going to teach you how to write them, but once they're written, you have to require compliance in your company. If you don't, it is wasted. All of it's wasted. The number one thing is you set the example. If you don't follow your process, you have 100% given permission that nobody else has to. So you're the leader, lead by example. And the first thing is following those processes yourself. If the systems aren't enforced, they're absolutely worthless, and that's probably part of where that 80% comes from that she was talking about earlier. Just because they're documented, it doesn't mean anything. You want to make sure you're sharing with your team, but I added clients. Why did I add clients?
Because it's setting expectations for clients, and they're not going to go ahead and follow your policies and procedures, and you're doing something different for one and doing something different for someone else, that can cause hold on miscommunication, or they're going to ask for a refund, or potentially
Right.
end the engagement because the enforcement is not consistent.
Absolutely. And setting the expectation of how you work with your clients and how they work with you is part of helping you build that scalable business. It also sets that relationship up to succeed because everyone understands from the beginning. If they're not happy at the beginning, at least you know now. You don't have to fight it out at the end. Also, if someone violates your process, right, you want to start with a gentle reminder, hey, there's a process. Make sure that you're following that process. Did you follow it? The other thing that might come up in there is I did follow the process, but I couldn't do this because of X. Okay, now you're like, okay, maybe something's wrong with the process. So this also gives you a good way of managing your people because you're able to say what went wrong with the process, and now you're working together to solve it instead of making them wrong. If they continue to violate the process, now you have an HR issue. You can escalate it to HR, but who in here is HR? I am. Okay, so it might be you, which comes down to her avoidance thing earlier, right? I'm really glad I could tie into her thing. Don't avoid it because it's making your life worse. It's making the rest of your team's life worse. You might have to get them out. This goes back. We're going to come now to living, breathing documents. When you write this stuff down, it is important that they live and breathe and grow with you. They are not just write it down, forget it. We have to continue to remember that we change, our companies change, our people change, our clients change over time. You're going to learn things from all that make things better. And if you're looking at your business as a process-driven business, when those things come up, you need to look at the process. So if you have a client issue, solve the issue, make them happy, then go back, find out why it happened, and then address the process that was surrounding it. It's not just, oh great, we solved the client, move on, because it'll just happen again. And you might be able to put something in place to prevent it from ever happening again. As you learn things, as things change, you have to change them. Now, again, many of us start to use these processes over time. We get so used to them, right? You just do it you're not looking at the list anymore. You're not looking at it, you know it. That's great. That also means nobody's probably paying attention to it. So who's actually gone to look that you've changed software 6 times and it's not even written that a new hire could come on and follow it? That's part of why they have to evolve. We talked a little bit about this, but your boots on the ground, the people doing the work, they have to be involved in creating the process, in growing the process, in living the process, because they're the ones with the most information. Even though you as the owner are thinking, oh, it's in my head, I know what's best, they have to execute it. And if they can't, or they're running into obstacles that you're not listening to, you're gonna end up with some issues. Someone on your team, and with the solos in here, that's gonna be you, might have to be designated as the keeper of the process. I actually have a keeper of the process on my team. She's fantastic. It makes my life easy that I don't even have to do it, because I will get myself sucked into that really easily, because this is my world, right? Operations is my world. So I will live in those if I don't give it away. If you don't have this person, though, it will fall to you. That's okay. Set yourself in your project management tool, set yourself a reminder every 6 months, every year, depending on how volatile the process is, to go in and review it. You can do it during your downtime. You know, a lot of people find that week between Christmas and New Year, maybe you take it off, that would be better. But if you're working, that's a great time just to do some things like this, to catch up on your business. The other thing to note about reviewing these on a regular basis is that some things might move faster than that. So if you have things that are evolving and changing, or that you're like, we're gonna try this and see how it works, maybe it's quarterly, maybe it's even monthly that you have to review it. So use your best judgment. Don't listen to your intuition, as she said. Use your best judgment on those things. All right, we're gonna jump into project management next. So this might answer a lot of your questions as we get here. I had a client that came to us and they were using a lot of Excel spreadsheets to run their business. They were growing like crazy, and they didn't understand why things were so confused and people didn't know what to do. And I'm like, Excel is not for those who are FileMaker developers in here. It is not a relatable database. It's flat. You need to be able to pull information from different places, and that's what these tools do. This client came on board with us. We moved them in to my favorite, teamwork.com, and they're going like gangbusters now. Everything's so much simpler. Their team's all on the same page. So sometimes just some simple things like that can make a difference. So I do want everyone to repeat after me. Email is not a project management tool.
Email is not a project management tool.
Email, not a project management tool. If you are doing it that way, you are not doing it correctly, so stop. I would prefer Excel over email. So, these are some good examples, teamwork.com, monday.com, ClickUp is a great one, and there is a free version of ClickUp that you can use. And there's tons of others. There's Trello, there's all sorts of other softwares that you can look at. And it's important to know that this is also the stuff that's going to that's going to start preventing some of your interruptions, because the information's where people can find it. Other things to keep in note is that if you're working, how many people here work with clients? So you're a professional services business delivering a project to a client. Pretty much everyone? Okay. Schedule regularly scheduled status meetings with your clients. Every week, every 2 weeks, whatever makes sense for the pace of the job. One of the things that's important is that's going to help cut down on the interruptions as well, because they're going to know when they talk to you next. Those status meetings structure are pretty simple. What did we do? What's next? What's a blocker? And here's a big one, y'all. Where are we on the money? That's the one that often nobody wants to talk about because maybe it's too scary, but it's important, and if you're talking about it regularly, it makes it way less scary. All right. The first important part of doing good project management is the proposal or scope of work, or however you're defining it with your client. If you do not have a clear time, scope, and budget with your client, that they understand the expectation, there is no way your project will ever get delivered in any satisfactory way for you or them. So the proposal is actually the first step in project management. Usually not done in your project management tool, though. So here are a few project management tips for you. Each client should have its own project minimally. Maybe they have multiple, but minimally, separate projects for separate clients. To-dos need someone assigned and a deadline. How many people can get assigned to one task? One person. It's okay if a team is going to work on it, but one person needs to be responsible for meeting that deadline. There we go. I jumped ahead. So you also can include milestones, especially for software developers, right? You don't want every single little step written down of what you have to do. It's too much. So you can include the milestone with the date and the thing, and maybe some other certain things to meet, because you also don't want to not break it down into small enough steps that no one can get there. You don't want to show up on the last day and find out we're 20% complete, but this was a 200-hour project. So you do have to break it down, but milestones sometimes work better in that case. And you can get help from people to build the template or the schedule. How many business owners in this room love details? We only have a couple here. I love details. I have to actually get out of doing this, but get some help. It could be your VA, maybe. Sometimes VAs don't have the talent to do this. Project management does not have to be a full-time person. There are ways to hire part-timers. It could be a spouse, if your spouse is good at this stuff, and if you think it's not going to destroy your marriage. So think about those things, but get some help if you can't do it, because this really makes, if you don't know the date you're trying to hit, you're never going to hit it, and it will never finish. And if we're not delivering our projects, our clients have no value from what they paid. Okay, so now we're back to setting client expectations too. This is part of it. The scope is the scope. You defined it together. We all know what we agreed to. Clients forget this though, right? They ask for things, and half the time they don't know what they're even asking for. They don't know how it affects all that work you did at the beginning to scope what it was. They just had a dream last night and woke up and they're asking you for this thing that's on their mind. And most of your team members will say, sure, we can do that, because they're in the business of solving problems, and they love to do that, and they want to fix it. So you have to remember that the scope is the scope. It's predefined, it is simple, and it's easy to say that. I'm sorry, that's not in scope. We'd be happy to do that for you with more time and money, right? I'm spinning. Let's see if I can read this over here. The timeline is based on the scope, right? Is this coming up yet?
Yeah.
Okay, good. The timeline's based on the scope, so if the scope changes, the timeline changes. Maybe you can squeeze something in. If you ever do something that's not in scope for a client because you're just doing it for goodwill, it's not goodwill if you're not telling them you're doing that. So also make that a point. I'm happy to do that. You know that's not in scope, but you know, I'm happy to throw that in for you. So keep that in mind too, and don't do it that often.
I learned the behavior tolerated is behavior taught.
Also true.
We're teaching them early on, we're giving them stuff.
Yes.
And then we come back 3 weeks later, it's kind of hard to have that conversation. Because I told them, going outside of the scope or outside of that agreement.
It makes it really hard. And I know for the software developers, how many times have you been like, oh, I'm just going to throw in that one thing. It's no big deal. And then it's 30 hours later, and you still haven't solved it. And now they're mad, and you're mad, and everybody's mad, right? If you just said from the beginning, this isn't in scope, but we can look into it for you, it probably would have been better. And changes to things affect price. Money is not emotional. It is, you don't get emotional when you go into a hardware store and buy a hammer. So why are we getting emotional over this? And I think we do. So it's important to remember all of these things when we're talking with them. And the clear communication to the clients is what's going to also tap down that chaos. It's really important to not avoid, if you know there's a problem, let's get on it now and solve it. And let's be very clear about it. Don't avoid it. You also apparently take that into your body. The last thing is, I always suggest give the clients a way to dream. So there can be a wish list in your project management tool. They had a great idea, throw that on there. You know what? We'll come back to that after we finish these things. Now, you're also possibly scoping your next project with them based on that. So a wish list is a great idea and a great, easy, non-confrontational way to solve it with your client. Of course, we can take care of that for you after we complete this scope for this price in this time. Okay, so timeline building, also part of project management here. In general, start when the project's due and work backwards. If you find out that it, should have been started 3 weeks ago, you built this, you might have to figure out some alternatives or talk to the client then. But I guarantee that if it doesn't have the due date on it, it's not ever going to get done. Also, you can schedule it forward if there isn't a date required. We won the project today. We told them it would take about 6 months. Let's start scheduling it today, but you still schedule it through the end. So we still know when the end date is. Meet your deadlines or communicate in advance that you're not going to. And if you're not going to, I would share some reasons. It could be that, it could be the client, right? You didn't give us all this stuff, so now we're delayed. It could be that you ran into another problem. It could be that there was a tornado where your developer lived, who knows? So all those things can affect it. If you communicate, most clients are okay with it. It's not the end of the world. Again, going back to the milestones, include the major steps in the process. So if there are big deliverables, we always want to make sure that those deadlines are met. So make sure that those all have dates. And then share the schedule with all the players when you start. This isn't just your project in your project manager's head. It needs to be shared with the client. It needs to be shared with the team. It needs to have an opportunity for the team to say, that's insane, I can't do that, so that you can accommodate it up front. So this is the one thing I think people miss the most is confirming against people's schedules. Oh yeah, sure, I can do that in 2 weeks. Oh, except they were on vacation for 2 weeks. So check that kind of stuff too. Is there a holiday in there? Are there vacations scheduled? Is someone, dealing with a sick mother and is only working every other day or something like that? Keep those things in mind when you're looking at these schedules so that they're realistic to deliver. All right, so what happens when changes happen? We all freak out. First, don't let them get you off track. Use that wish list, but don't let the changes change the whole deal. Most of us spend, no matter what we're doing, time scoping and thinking and dealing with what is in the client's mind eye to get to the end. So if they're changing something, they haven't put that thought into it. So think about that too. You want to make sure that we're not getting them off track as well.
I like the way you put the wish list, because it's change is going to happen. You just need a way to capture.
Change will happen. That's a given.
I like the title.
And the only time you can't do that is if something dramatic happened in their business that it has to change. But you can use your judgment, right? Yeah.
Let's talk about
Let's talk about it.
Talk about that and see, does it change what we're doing?
Right.
Is
right.
this still the 3 vitals or whatever that I wrote wish list?
It's a killer solution. Yeah. Remember that an undelivered project has no value. So if you're scoping something for a client that needs this to run part of their business, and you just keep taking their changes and you just keep dragging out a delivery, they have no minimum viable product to use. They've paid you all this money and they have nothing, and they're going to be mad, I promise. Even if they think, well, they've done everything I've asked, but I don't have anything. So you're the professional. You need to be the one that says, this can't happen. All right, and then, fulfill the scope first that we define, then start adding those changes. That's your next project. That's your plan. That's more money. The wish list, again, great solution. Dramatic changes, as we just talked about, stop, talk about them. Okay, you lost a partner in your business for the client. The client did. Maybe that's going to dramatically change what you're doing. So those kinds of things need to be a stop. Let's reassess. Let's reassess the scope and all that. Come together on that. Consider issues beyond your control, like the tornado, like a hurricane, like the power's out, like any of those things that come up. You might want to make sure that you have some plans in place. If you're working with a whole bunch of contractors, for example, that have files on their desktops at their homes that you have no access to, that's a concern. So this is where another process can come into place of all of our files are stored on Google Drive that everyone has access to, as an example. That way, if something happens, they can go somewhere else, get another computer, and have access to it. You haven't lost everything. So wish list results, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because we've talked about most of this. You can do change orders from this. Your next project is here. You can group them by individual tasks or groups of tasks. You can make them small projects, big projects. You can have change buckets where, maybe you also, what do contractors call it? They have a contingency budget, right? You might have that as an option in a bucket where we can put that in your change bucket, so they've already even paid for it, but we're gonna prioritize them at the end. Money on deposit with all of those. How many of you get paid up front? Always get paid up front.
Would you suggest, so maybe even not fully upfront, but like contingency percentages where if, as they're happening, at least it's what I'm about to do, not what I've just done.
That would be, yes, but I would not ever make them contingent on milestones, because then you'll get into a bickering over, is that delivered or not? A date.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, but it's what I'm about to do.
About what, yes. Not what you've already done. No arrears. That's the worst.
That's the worst.
I've done all the work. I'll never get the money. It'll take me weeks, and they're not motivated to pay it because they already got what they wanted. Yeah. Change buckets is a good long-standing support option too. So if you put that in place, you can be like, hey, we'll just take any change you want, anytime you want. You know, we charge you once a quarter X dollars. Other part about project management is we're project managing our projects. What about us? We need to project manage ourselves as well. Create a project for your business. Make sure that your tasks, you know, some might just be tasks, they might not be projects, but there are projects. There is redoing your website. There are doing all your blogs. There is making sure you're communicating with your staff. There are annual reviews. There are all of those things that if we're not project managing ourselves, they're not gonna happen. If you keep operations tasks with due dates assigned to you or another team member in that project, that's going to help too. So just some basics there. Block out time on your calendars. Ever get to the end of the day and you're like, I'm never going to get this stuff done? Use calendar blocking. It is priceless to make things happen. Who plans their day the morning of the day? Who plans their day the night before? Plan your day the night before. Then when you come in, you're ready to hit the things and get them done, as opposed to letting something throw you off track and you haven't even built your plan and now it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And you don't know what your priority is. You certainly didn't do it. But at the end of the day, for the next day, it's much easier to know what your priorities are and to be able to see what's on my list versus what's on my calendar, and did I blow up my day because I already have too much to do. You can reschedule something or something like that if you're doing it in advance. If you're doing it the day of, it's either rude or you can't move it.
Mind you, that's what you have to block out that time to actually do it.
But yes, that is also true. She said you have to also block out time to do it, do what you're saying. So that end of day thing is a big deal. Be realistic. I think especially with ourselves, we're all driven. We all know we're fast. We all know we're smart. We all know we can do it, but then we run out of time to do it. So be realistic with what's possible, and to Jennifer's point, make sure you're taking care of your body in the middle of that. Are you getting up and moving? You don't have to jump around like a crazy person if that's not your thing, but walk down the hall, go outside, exercise, move, eat right. All those things need to be considered in your being realistic plan. Okay, we're to the third one. Interruption management. Joe and James from Scarpetta Group were struggling so bad with interruptions. How do I get any work done? And Mandy, I think this was even before your time. They had people coming in, asking them questions all day because they were the ones who knew the answers. There were not people that knew the answers. And so we were able to build them some time into their schedule for office hours. So they had, It's so much better if you have an hour, and even if you have to move the time from day to day, tell the team when you're available that you'll be in a Zoom meeting. I'm just sitting here in the Zoom meeting. Y'all stop by anytime you want, and guess what? If they're not there, that's your time to clean out your email or do your finances or do whatever that you can do while you're sitting and waiting. But that gives them a time to talk to you where you're not interrupted, and they know it's there so they can plan to meet with you then. Again, what do we think is our biggest interruption? I think you said it earlier. Email. Who sits with the email open all day? Oh, that's a lot of hands. Slack's too. Slack will have the same effect. You'll know you can close those apps, right? Just close them. Just close them. Email and Slack are going to jerk you around from your priorities as a business owner. Now, I'm not saying, now if you're a project manager, you probably do need to be in your email all day. Even though you shouldn't be project managing in your email, you're going to get communication that you're trying to distribute and handle with your team. Different rule for that. If you're a business owner, you should not be in your email all day. Get a VA, or if you're not going to do that, there are plenty of AI apps out there right now that will help call that email box for you, but check in 3 times a day, 4 times a day. If it's coming through email, email now is almost like the post office, right? If you get something in your mailbox, are you frantically running out to see what's in the mail? No, because it's not important. Most of your email is not important, but it is a really good distractor, and it makes you feel real productive when you start clearing those out. So stay out of your email. Get a VA to do it, tone it down, use AI. If you feel like you're putting out fires all day, who feels like that? That's not sustainable. It's exhausting. Every time you're interrupted to put out a fire, it'll take you at least 20 minutes after that fire is out to get back into what you were doing before. If you are operating with fires happening all the time, you need to look at your overall operations of your business, because it's beyond just interruptions. It's that you're not setting expectations, you're not being clear up front. There's a whole bunch of other things that can go into play. It's not all out of your head. All those things come into play. And status meetings with your team and your employees is another way to help prevent these interruptions. But my biggest one, and the one I love the most, is calendaring. I do have a calendar course. It's like $29 or something. It only takes about an hour. If you want to go through that, it'll help you figure out how to block your most important things first. You don't have to do this all at once. It can be overwhelming if you're like, I'm going to start tomorrow and start cleaning everything out. Start with some office hours. Start with putting your workout on there every day. Start with some basics that can be repeating, and then start to do more of the deep thought over time. And if you are an owner and you don't have at least 2 to 4 hours a week blocked to work on your business, I would say that's a good goal to get to. Even if it's 2 hours Monday morning and 2 hours Friday afternoon, block those times and it will make a big difference. Highest priorities are not our work. Your God, your spirit, your family, your health, those are your highest priorities. That's why we do this. So make sure that's allotted for. My calendar has all those things in it. Your business focused time is very important. You have to be thinking about that. Even if you're not an owner, you need time for coding that's not interrupted, right? Make sure you have those blocks. Don't forget your breaks. Don't forget to move. When I first started my business, I did not do this. And I'd be like 2 o'clock in the afternoon crashing and I don't feel good. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot to eat. You know, those kinds of things matter. So, focus. Planning is important. Eisenhower, I don't know if y'all know that D-Day was moved 2 days because of weather. Can you imagine a bigger project? And he said planning is everything. The plan is kind of worthless. Planning is imperative because if you're doing the planning, you're thinking through all the contingencies, you're thinking through all of the things that could happen, you're addressing those things. Then you build a plan, and the plan is in place to change, right? It's there, let's follow it the best we can, but in all likelihood, it's gonna change. But the planning makes a difference. And so that's why focusing makes so much more, is so much more important, because you have to decide what can wait. It's so much easier if you know what the plan is. If you don't have a plan in mind, you're never gonna get there. So, ever feel like you had a plan and your day got blown up? Right? And now we don't even know. Okay, we solved whatever it was that blew up the day, but now we're sitting here, we don't even know what to do. What do we do next? We feel overwhelmed, but we don't know what to do. This is why you have a list. Go back to your list. Regroup. Sometimes it takes a minute. Regroup. What was on that list that still has to get done today versus what can I reschedule? This is part of project managing yourself and helping with all of the interruptions that come up. Okay. If you are interrupted, how do you manage that interruption? If it's something simple, just knock it out. If it's going to take 2 or 3 minutes, you're already interrupted, just get it done and move on. If it is someone calling and they want to talk to you about a new sale, that's exciting. Schedule a time to talk to them. This does 2 things. 1, it gets you in the right mindset to talk to them. 2, it also tells them, I'm a busy professional. I'm doing a lot of things. I'm not waiting for your call. I mean, personally, if I call a contractor to remodel my home and they're there to take the call and they're there in 10 minutes to give me the bid and they can start on Monday, I'm a little nervous. So it's okay to schedule it. Hey, thanks for the call. I'd love to talk to you. Are you available for 45 minutes on Friday at 2 o'clock? Let's get that set up. What's your email address? I'll send you an invitation. Okay? You're gonna then also come into that with a better mindset. You'll have an opportunity to research them a little bit, find out a little bit more, to ask better questions. That's part of how you mitigate bigger instructions, but the other part too is in that you will have the opportunity of, is this a fire that is horrible? I had a client Friday upset about something, and I'm like, well, we have a plan. I told her the plan in email, and I'm like, I'll be back on Thursday. I'm happy to talk with you about it. She was very upset she couldn't talk to me this week, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't know what to tell you. I had to mitigate that. I had to make that choice. And honestly, if she's that mad, she's probably going to go away anyway, right? So why am I going to turn everything upside down for that? So think about that. We've talked about the most common interruption, which is email. So let me give you a few tips on emails other than just turning it off, right? That is a good one. But the first one, schedule when to go through it. You know, even if you don't have it on your schedule, be like, I'm going to do it while I eat lunch, and I'll do it at the end of the day, and please don't do it at 6:30 in the morning when you wake up in your bed on the phone. That's not going to start your day out that great. Decision making when you're in email is key. This is how you're going to get through everything first. So there's really only 5 things you need to do with an email. 1 is respond. 2 is file it. 3, it's junk. That's probably 3/4 of what's in there. Flag it or delete it, right? The flagging it is probably the ones that are, you're like, I got to think about this. You know, you're usually either, I got that information, I can delete it, or it's something somebody else needs to know and I can forward it, or I'm filing it for future reference. But those that you're like, this is a good idea, or this is something I flag it. And then when you flag it, you need to find time on your calendar to look at it. So think about that too. Try to have an empty inbox after every review. Who has more than 20 emails in their inbox right now? Who has emails that are older? He's just going to keep his hand raised. Older than 1 month in your inbox. Okay, if they're older than 1 month, declare some bankruptcy, just delete them. What happens when you have files in your inbox? Important things do get overlooked because they get mixed in with the already read or the unread or whatever. The other is the mindset. You come in and there's so much, it's overwhelming. If you're like, oh, there's 15, I'm gonna knock these out, no problem. It just changes the mindset. So be willing to declare that bankruptcy. I guarantee you if it's a month old, no one cares. You're certainly not gonna respond anymore. Schedule your outgoing emails. So this is a good way to set boundaries. I tend to mess with my emails in front of TV at night. I mean, some might also do that. I'm not a good TV watcher. I have to do something else. Clearing out emails and answering emails is a great time to do that. I don't want to email a client, though, at 10 o'clock at night. It, 1, tells them I'm working then. 2, it invites a response, and now you're in an email conversation at 10 o'clock at night. And 3, maybe it tells them they're not getting my best self. So perception matters. Schedule it to go out at 8. We all have the ability to do that in our email apps or even in our CRMs. So, coming to the end, 3 ways to get the chaos out of your business: control the interruptions, manage your projects, but systemize. So process matters. And I'm going to spin before we get to my free audit picture. There it is. So if y'all want to take the free audit, it asks you a bunch of questions, and then I will do a call with you and walk through and give you some 3 free ways to improve your operations. Any questions?
Good stuff.
Thank you. Anybody feel like they got some good takeaways from today? Tell me one thing you're going to take back and implement. Clean out your email? Okay.
I was going to start with a wish list, but I think clean out.
That one's easy, though. Yeah.
Do you ever control or manage your interruptions with the phone by turning it off, or do you just silence it, or how do you get on your phone?
On the phone, I don't even know what the notifications on my phone sound like. How many of you get calls on the phone that are important? 2 of you. The rest of you, stop answering it. Also, if you're getting calls on the phone that are important, how can you retrain your client to email that or to set up a meeting with you instead? Phone calls are interruptions.
Well, that's right. That's hard to do though, because it's hard to tell them what don't want.
No, it's real easy if you don't answer the call, and then you email them back and say, sorry I missed your call. Is Tuesday at 2 a good time for me to call you back?
100%. I'm just saying that a lot of clients, as you all know, it's all about them. They're
Of course.
They don't think about it. They're just calling. So yeah, I don't answer it, but still, they still do the.
Susan, I have an update for that.
Yeah.
So during my onboarding process with my clients, I talk to them about how to schedule communication in meetings.
Great idea.
So they know exactly about how to communicate with me, and they know phone calls are quick, easy. We are not talking about anything big on a phone call. If they need something bigger, they have access to my calendar scheduling app, and they can go ahead and schedule a call. So part of that is setting the expectations and sometimes retraining of just like, time against you. I'm still accessible to you, but this is the way that we do that to make sure that I can be present to be able to provide the solution to you at that point in time. But like I set that expectation right from the beginning that like these are the ways that you can access me. Anything outside of that, I'm probably not going to be as responsive as you would like, or you're not going to reach me at all.
Yeah.
I find that I put a focus on my phone, and anybody that has to get through because you need to hear from them, they are okay to my phone to actually the notification come through. Otherwise, mine I'll sit in silence and I don't see it until I am.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really great idea. And any of that internal, that's important internally too. If you have teams, I don't want my team to call me. If they call me, I think like they're at the hospital, right? So that's a really good way to look at that. Great tip. Any other questions? We are 6 minutes over, but I'll still take questions. Okay. I have just a handful of books up here if you're interested. This is really how to document your processes. So I wrote this book last year. We had it at Build.Grow.Learn last year, so if you were here, you probably got it. And Joe and I have the Your Business is Holding You Hostage book available too if y'all got that when you checked in. So thank you very much. Y'all enjoy your lunch.